Sponsored by heshes.co.uk, a fast-growing boxing equipment brand that give 20% of all sales on the branded products back to a boxing gym of your choice.
Hello and welcome back, episode 2 of the No Huddle podcast here on the Niche Sports Media Network. And I'm Lewis, as always, and I'm joined by my co-host Martin, or better known as Egg. How are we this week?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. We're definitely going to have to, in one of these episodes, get down to the nickname of Egg and how it came about.
Yeah, we'll leave that for a little while. We'll maybe we'll do that as a weekly prize or something if we get enough support. But yeah, we'll leave that for another time.
A bit of intrigue there. We'll leave people wait and see for them to find out, and we'll build a bit of intrigue around why Egg is Egg. But no, speaking of nicknames, I'm sure I said it last week when we're speaking about college football teams for some reason, and again I won't go into it. My nickname back here is Swamp among my close friends, and like I say, I'm not going to get into that in a hurry, but we were speaking about me choosing a college team, which I've gone out and done, the Florida Gators, who of course play at the Swamp. I've gone and chosen. I know you gave me options, and they weren't actually sort of in the three options that you gave.
That's class. They're a good program. That's welcome to the SEC, the daddy of all the conferences. At least you didn't choose like Ohio State or Big Ten team, and I have to troll you.
I was this close to choosing Michigan, and we could be super fans together, but I thought a bit of friendly rivalry and difference is definitely good. And yeah, like I said, they play at the Swamp, and that just suited me down to a T. So we've gone for a pretty having done some research, a problematic program in terms of some of the players that have come out of it. But I guess the less said about that, the better, and it doesn't define the football program at Florida to a T.
They win back-to-back championships in football and then don't do anything for years, and then win back-to-back championships in basketball and don't do anything for years. Like, that's how it works. It's all like feast or famine, it seems to be there.
Yeah.
But the regular season doesn't look too bad. You've got Georgia and Arkansas at home, and then Florida State on the 25th of November. So Utah is difficult, and then you've got a couple easy, what they call cupcake games.
Yeah.
The Georgia game's on at 8:30 p.m. UK time. That's actually quite good. That'd be the rest are all past my bedtime.
And did we say with the SEC that you can watch them over here?
You used to be able to on ESPN Player, but they've got rid of the player now. But DAZN or whatever they're called have taken over the NFL. So I don't know if that's going to be on the NFL, but ESPN's owned by Disney. So it's all kind of up in the air. But I would be surprised if they've not got something sorted.
I guess we can update everyone as we find out.
Most people, when the ESPN Player or something comes back, most people will hear, because they'll hear me screaming like a little kid. But I don't have to.
I need to watch some college football this year, and I'm excited for Red Zone Sundays too. I don't know if you
Red Zone. I used to have Red Zone on the telly and then the Browns on the laptop, and my mum, when I lived at home, could never quite get around the fact I was watching two games at once. But Red Zone is
it's perfect, isn't it? Because especially for new fans, I think, sitting down and watching a game where you might not have expected there to be adverts every minute or breaks in play constantly. Red Zone just keeps you in the action for hours and hours, and it is the best thing to do on a Sunday night.
Yeah, and if your team's on a bye week as well and you just want to keep an eye on everything that's going on around your team. I think it's potentially the best thing about the NFL. I'm going to put that my neck on the line there and say it is literally the best. Other than the Browns, it's the best thing about the NFL.
There's definitely some good things, but for me, I think it's on like NFL Games Pass. It's on Sky Sports, which a lot of people will have over here, and like you're saying, DAZN or whatever you want to DAZN, whatever it's called, are taking over NFL Games Pass. Something I was a bit disappointed at. Something I love every year, the NFL Top 100 Players. I don't know if you ever watched the YouTube videos.
It's
not on YouTube this year.
they've cut back on loads of stuff. I don't know because
So
they went through Hard Knocks. They used to do Hard Knocks is obviously one team, but then lots of the other franchises used to do their own version.
yeah,
But they're like the Browns did a really like comprehensive one, and this year it's like 5-10 minute videos, and so I'm not really learning anything about what's going on in camp or anything. So it's a bit disappointing, really.
yeah, because I think it was during the week last week, and I seen top 100 players, and it was like 100 to 91. So like the first 10 players of the top 100. I was like, this is where I sit and watch 3-minute videos on the top 100 players in the league, and can't get enough of it. YouTube, it was only the 2022 and ones before, and I think it's on NFL Plus, which I think must be an American.
Yeah,
it must be like the Games Pass of America, so it's like the streaming site for all NFL. So I went on DAZN and went on the Games Pass and was searching it, couldn't find it anywhere. The top 100. There's lots to watch on Games Pass at the moment, from live stuff, obviously the games when it comes out, and historic stuff, and lots of good documentaries. But I think I would have went and bit the bullet and paid the price if the top 100 players was on there, but nowhere to be found. I did find on YouTube some of them being uploaded by some random guy who must have sort of pirated them. So there's still the option.
The new passes, like when I had it years ago, the passes you used to be able to specifically pick a team. So you just had like all the other leagues, you can just pick a team. So like I've got one for the Knicks, one for the White Sox. But the NFL, you have to have everything, and it's a bit frustrating because for all the greatest will in the world, I would just rather sit down and watch a Browns game and then watch Red Zone. But they don't. I get why they do it because it's more money. But at the same point, if you're just a fan of one team and not the league as a whole, like it's a bit, you're kind of just paying for. Like I don't really want to sit down and watch like a LA Rams game. Like I couldn't care less, to be honest. But yeah.
There's definitely going to be this year some teams you want to watch more than others, and I believe you've gone into a bit more depth and sort of seen who's got the chances this year of having a successful season, and also done a wee deep dive into the Browns and the Packers as our two teams to sort of see how stats wise our seasons might go.
I wouldn't call the Browns and the Packers a deep dive, considering we have no chance of any success anytime soon.
It's not looking good.
The thing I love about American sports that you don't get in the UK is the stats surrounding everything. There was a stat I saw years ago. Someone was keeping tally of, it was in the NBA, of when a specific player scored more points if he was wearing red shoes or white shoes. Like, just, I love random facts. So American sports like does that for me. But the ESPN analytics, I've got it on screen in a minute, but they do a percentage of who's going to win, who they think's going to win. I don't know how they make their mathematical models, but they're pretty accurate. So they've got the Chiefs as the best offense. Not really surprising. Bills are second. Again, not really surprising. Eagles third. Again, not surprising. Bengals fourth, which made me a bit sick in my mouth, obviously. 49ers were fifth, and then the Jets were down in sixth, which I found quite surprising. But the rest have all got established quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is going into a new offense. Yeah. I think they're going to be higher than fifth. I've put them down as to win the Super Bowl. I've put money on them to win the Super Bowl. I know I spoke to you about it, that's kind of how Aaron Rodgers is going to go down. That's the level now, isn't it? To win a Super Bowl at more than one team. Peyton Manning did it. I've just gone blank. From the Patriots. Greatest of all time. Tom Brady done it. It's been a long day. Tom Brady done it. So Aaron Rodgers now needs to do it at the Jets. So obviously, that's my opinion. Up to other people. I think the Browns.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. I think the beauty of the NFL is we might have people watching this who are experts on the NFL, follow a team, love watching it, and there might be some people watching this now who are just getting into American football for the first time, getting into the NFL for the first time. It changes so much year by year that you can literally start it like it's like watching a movie and watching the second one before the first one or something. But it's the opposite. You can start a new season and just learn from there and not have to know too much about what happened last season. It does help, don't get me wrong, but you can literally start from here. So people might hear say names like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, names you would have probably heard, but if you've not seen too much of the NFL might not know too much about. I guess this is also going to help when we're talking about those with the highest chance. These are the teams to watch out for. And if you want to be a glory hunter, start following.
Yeah. So that is the beauty. I suppose that is the beauty of the NFL. All the other American leagues, they have farm systems, or the rosters are kind of set. Whereas in the NFL, there's so much of a turnover, isn't there? Like every other year, the Browns seem to have a different quarterback. Every year, it seems to be the Falcons are doing something ridiculous for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen at Tennessee or the Lions, or so you can kind of just come in and just pick a team, or you don't really need to know. It's kind of, they'll be here for a year or they could be gone the next. It's kind of just,
exactly. I think the draft helps. The draft system helps that so much, because with the worst team getting the biggest, it's not a lottery in the NFL, is it?
No.
But so with the team with the worst record getting the first pick, it then gives them the chance at this generational player, which doesn't always work out, as we know, but that then helps them build and rebuild, and then teams who, as we'll come on to, have won a Super Bowl in the last 10 years might only have a 0.5% chance of even getting there this year.
So if you think like 10 years ago, the Bills were regularly finishing bottom of their division, well behind the Patriots and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And are now ranked the second best offense in the NFL, and the Patriots are nowhere to be seen. So it's your team can get better over time. It's kind of just you have to trust that they're building correctly.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
In Cleveland, we've done since we reformed in 1998, and it's just gone disastrously wrong. The Browns were the 17th best offense ranked in that. And I'm going to let you have a little guess of where you think the Packers were.
Right, I'm going to... There's definitely worse offenses. Jordan Love's played a few games. Not much, and he's definitely an unknown. You've got teams like with other unexperienced quarterbacks, like the Falcons spring to mind with Desmond Ridder this year. But they do have Bijan Robinson coming through as their round one pick, who's almost overhyped at this point. He's got a lot of expectation to live up to, so he could be carrying them. I'm going to go 32 teams, 27.
Oh, close, 25th. Which I was actually surprised about. I thought they would be a little bit higher than that, but yeah.
Especially that we have no wide receiver. Well, Christian Watson coming into his second year, and a couple of younger guys, but no sort of standout wide receiver at the moment.
We have the issue where Watson is going to have to be quick on his feet because we have no offensive line. So if you're playing the Browns, just blitz every given opportunity, really, because that's going to be the issue for us. Defensively, I think we're going to be all right, but it's
17th, did you say?
Yeah, I think it's
middle of the pack, which
is a step in the right direction for us, considering we went through an entire season without winning a game a few years ago.
Deshaun Watson could come out and just have like a season he had before the drama, which if you don't know about, go look up the Deshaun Watson drama.
We're not going to be on Hard Knocks. We're not going to be on that QB show. The Browns are not going to be anywhere near family television anytime soon.
No, definitely not. But he has that ability, and then last year when he came back to playing, he just didn't quite have the sharpness.
I love the Browns more than anything, and it's never dull, but I just want some normality. I just want a season where we're just average, where we're not terrible. I'm not worried if we're going to make it to the playoffs. Or the last time in the playoffs, we did beat the Steelers, but I just want a boring season where the new guys come in, can have their issues, can kind of grow, and then next season we can draft a few more and we can build. I just want to go on that little ride that the Chiefs have gone on.
Yeah,
and I don't even care if we get to a Super Bowl and lose. Just get into a Super Bowl would do me. I'm at that point now of 10 plus years. I just want to get to a Super Bowl, and for people to actually be sat around watching the Super Bowl going, "Oh, I quite like the Cleveland Browns."
Yeah,
I'm not thinking that with a guy off a Family Guy, because that's also really annoys me as well.
The very first thing I thought whenever I heard the name, I was like, "That's got to be a joke, or have they taken that from Family Guy?"
I've googled it. No one's ever. But every time they're like, "Oh, which NFL team do you support?" I'm like, Cleveland Browns, and they're like, isn't that the guy from Family Guy? And I'm like, no, yeah, okay, well,
moving
on.
I don't know what to think about the like. I was speaking with my friend who's into the NFL as well, and it's one of those sports, especially for us over here, where you're not at the games and experiencing the rivalries. You do tend to like other teams other than your own. Like, obviously, you support your own team, but not have soft spots as such. But you don't mind seeing other teams win.
I got a bit of a soft spot for the Lions and the Bears and the Falcons, but I'm not like we played the Bears this year, so it's not like I don't want them to do better than us. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like, yeah,
it's I think as well being far out of it, and yeah, like I say, not. I've never been to America, never mind a Packers game and stuff. Not experiencing that rivalry firsthand. Yeah, I'm the same. You like the Falcons as well. I quite like. And then like you grow up watching special players. Like now, if you start watching and you see the likes of what Patrick Mahomes can do, even like Jalen Hurts and whatnot, then you begin to sort of like the teams because of that. And like I say, it's never going to be supporting other teams, but there is just it's something you wouldn't get in football over here or rugby league or probably even basketball. But there's an element of just I don't know how to put it, but like friendly rivalry sort of thing, but in a good
But when you this kind of like we were talking about with the colleges, a friend of mine, she's from Michigan, so she was a Lions fan.
Yeah,
she moved to Ohio, so she's adopted. I think it might be the Bengals, something like that. So you if you move somewhere in America, you kind of adopt that new team. So a friend of mine, he went to University of Minnesota. He adopted the Vikings. He's now moved to Carolina. He's now changed to being a Panthers fan, but he's actually a Bengals fan. So it's kind of, I suppose, unless you're moving to like your direct rival, then it's not.
Yeah.
America's such a big place, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think I would have issues if I was to ever like move to Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or like Baltimore or somewhere, or even like Michigan. Well, not Michigan if I was moved to Detroit, but it's a bit. Yeah. The one thing that did make me laugh, because I looked through who's going to win the Super Bowl, because that was the only two things I was really interested in, is the offense and Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the Chiefs have the highest ranked offense, but they're not tipped the highest percentage to win the Super Bowl, which confused me, but it didn't actually go into why.
I'm guessing
because the Eagles were 14% to win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were only 13%, so it's only literally a percentage.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like taking into account offense and defense, and
I assume it might be, but then I can't see how. I obviously I said the Jets, but those two are the two best teams in the NFL. Like, I would have put them both at the same. So unless they've done it to just for clickbait, or I don't know. They didn't put how they work out these analytics. Surprisingly, 49ers were third with 11%, which kind of makes sense. Bills were fourth, which is obviously a bit conflicting again. And the Bengals were 1, 2, 3, were fifth. Yeah. And then joint fifth and sixth were the Lions and the Jets with a 4% chance. So it drops off massively.
The Lions
had a really good draft, but to think their 4% chance of winning the Super Bowl is... I was listening to their coach, I interviewed their coach today, and he sounds very optimistic, and he's obviously giving all the talk, but in reality, are they going to be anywhere near the Super Bowl? Are they even going to be challenging for a conference type? I can't see it, to be honest.
No, I'm not sold, and that's not just me being a biased Packers fan and not wanting the division rival. And to be fair, out of the three other teams in the Packers division, the NFC North, I believe, I'd probably like the Lions the most, and that's due to players like, I know Jamal Williams is gone now, but he was just a personality in the last couple of years, and a former Packers running back. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, the wide receiver, is special. He's definitely a special player. So it's things like that, touching back on what we were speaking about before. I do like the Lions more than any of the other Packers rivals, but not a chance of getting close to the Super Bowl.
It's going to be. I can't. Obviously, it's not going to be you guys, and I can't see the Bears being anywhere challenging for that. So it's going to be a 2-horse race between the Lions and the Vikings. So it's going to be. I don't know, but I can't see the Lions or the Vikings winning a Super Bowl. So I don't know where that's coming from. And the Vikings weren't even in. I didn't even look where the Vikings were. In fairness.
The Vikings. I seen a stat. I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you already. They had the most amount of wins that were within one score.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, the other day. But yeah, they're a team that everyone loves, and because everyone loves them, I've disliked them for years. And then I've watched the quarterback thing on Netflix, and I've realized I'm actually secretly in love with Kirk Cousins. Like, he's the sort of bloke I just want to be mates with.
Yeah, and I think that is good to mention the quarterback documentary. I think it's 8 parts currently on Netflix, which for me, it felt, I've not watched all yet, but feels a bit dragged out. But for someone getting into NFL now, what a way to sort of grow your love for it. And like you say, grow your love for certain players and maybe find a team, because it's a great insight, not only into the football, but into the personal lives of people, which is what things like All or Nothing have been doing for years now. So it's definitely, if you're getting into the NFL and want a way to get into other than just listening to podcasts, looking at stats and watching highlights on YouTube, that's a great way to start your journey.
There's loads of ones out there. You can go back and watch all the ones on YouTube. The teams, they make their own little documentary. But yeah, the QB one was interesting as well. But if you take Patrick Mahomes out of that documentary, it's not very exciting, is it? Let's be honest. Like, other than the fact that I've discovered I love Kirk Cousins, I wasn't particularly thrilled. I thought there was probably a couple other quarterbacks, but then it's down to who wanted to do it, I suppose.
Yeah, no, to put it into like British football terms, that's like having like Messi on a documentary with like Harry Winks from Tottenham or something. You know what I mean? It's just like...
it was like, right, we've got to get Patrick Mahomes, and then they just gave him the entire budget, and then they just went, right, we need 2 people now that are definitely not going to say no.
Yeah.
Anyone got Kirk Cousins' number?
Although he turned out to be great value. So
yeah, like I was watching, I was like, oh, he just seems to have been in the league forever, and no one knows where he came from. But and speaking of a team that won't be in those documentaries, back to the Browns, we are a 1.2% chance of winning the Super Bowl. Ooh. Which is nosebleed territory if you're a Browns fan.
Yeah, that's true.
Unsurprisingly, that was more than the Packers. You are 0.5% chance of winning the Super Bowl.
I think we're being written off a bit too early, and this is definitely going to come across. You know,
the Packers have gone from being up there continuously to just oh no, don't stomach.
Honestly, but I genuinely think we are being written off too early because, right, Jordan Love's had 2 or 3 years now to learn behind one of the best to do it, Aaron Rodgers.
It wasn't time, was it?
And then Christian Watson's going to have a breakout year at wide receiver. I think Dobbs is going to have a breakout year at wide receiver. And our defense isn't too bad. It underperformed last year. And we still got Matt LaFleur, who is a quality head coach and part of the system of head coaches that produce the likes of Sean McVay and whatnot. I can't remember the sort of system of coaches that's called. It's under some guy. But yeah, I think we're being written off too early. I'm optimistic.
I'm going to chop this up and put this on the Twitter as well. This is going to be great. Anyway, you've got what, 0.5% chance more than the Cardinals. You've got a 0% chance, which I find hilarious. How you can have no chance of winning a Super Bowl?
Yeah, that is brutal, isn't it? Absolutely brutal.
If I was a Cardinals fan, I'd be sat there right now just go, and baseball start again. When the Diamonds back up.
And like we say about the ever-changing scale of the NFL, the Cardinals just a few years ago were competing, and I know it's when Carson Palmer was there and like Patrick Peterson at cornerback, Larry Fitzgerald and stuff, but they were up there now. 0% chance of even sniffing the Super Bowl.
But they would, if they finish bottom, they will get the first pick in the draft. So that's what we were talking about for new fans. You may, if you pick the Cardinals, really good franchise, really good everything, graphics, great uniforms, great badge, potentially my favorite badge in the NFL. you would get the first draft pick. So they would get the first draft pick next season. The Houston Texans would get the second draft pick because they were the second worst predicted. But Houston traded their. You right there?
Yeah. Just
traded their pick to the Cardinals. I can't remember who for. So the Cardinals would get the first 2 picks in the draft, which is pretty unique. There's not that many damn teams. I think the Browns had 2 picks a few years ago. I can't think of anyone else after that. But the last time 2 teams had the first and second pick were the Indianapolis Colts in 1992, after they finished a 1-15 season.
I guess
the 2 guys they drafted as well apparently were absolute garbage and didn't make it in the league.
So if you're considering becoming a Cardinals fan, just know it could go pear-shaped. even if you get a first and second pick, which hasn't happened in 30 years, it could still not work out well.
But all the Cardinals need to do is win 1 game, which is more than the Browns won. I think we're the only franchise to not win a single game in the NFL for a season. And the city of Cleveland shows how great the sense of humor is in Cleveland. Put on an open-top bus parade to raise money for charity, and the city came out of the pie.
Honestly.
And then we lost the first 3 or 4 games of the next season as well.
I feel like the Browns, nothing goes right for them. It's when I cover rugby league, it's a bit like what's happening at the West Tigers over in Australia at the moment. But like, honestly, like it's like nothing's ever gone right for the Browns, and then Baker Mayfield looked like a player for about 30 seconds, and then again it all just went pear-shaped.
When we beat the Steelers in the playoffs, I was like, oh, what's this really warm, glowing feeling I've got in my stomach? And this is what happiness feels like. And then we went into the next playoff game and I was like, right, I just want to lose now. I just want to go back to knowing what I know, like just be awful. And we lost and it was great.
Yeah.
This is what I know, failure. It's like you put your little failure jacket on. For anybody watching it, I do genuinely love, I'm surrounded by Cleveland Browns everywhere in this room. I love them beyond belief, but just don't be a Browns fan because we're awful.
There's some shining light. Like who am I? Myles Garrett in the defense for the Browns. We sort of superstar. I say we superstar. He's massive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other Browns players at the moment, and I can't really, since it's changed a lot in a couple of years from when they had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham at wide receiver to. I don't even know if OJ Howard's at tight end anymore. I actually couldn't tell you, which is poor from me.
We've got a revolving door of players kind of just come to Cleveland. That's where their careers come to die. Like even not just in the NFL, like in every sport. Until LeBron came back to the Cavs, like Cleveland was like where your career just went to die a slow death. Like Cleveland doesn't got an NHL franchise because that would just be appalling because we have terrible teams in every sport.
The ice would melt, I think.
Pardon?
The ice would melt if they had an NHL team.
They're in Columbus, which is where Ohio State plays. So we won't go into that. But like if you pick like the Cardinals fans this year, the UK based ones will have such a camaraderie because they'll just go through that pain together. Like the British backers, we went through so much pain. We go through pain every season, but you learn to love your team more. So don't pick a team that's going to be winning. Don't pick the New England Patriots because you're from England, because that's not imaginary enough. Don't pick the Giants because everyone picks the Giants. Pick someone random, or just put everyone's name into a hat and just pick out just the teams I've just said, and then just pick a name out and that's your team.
Another way you could do it, if you had a bit of money spare or were from near enough, and had money spare, actually, tickets are quite expensive, but there's 3 NFL London games this year.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville sort of became London's team. And so it's Atlanta Falcons, Jacksonville Jaguars, Sunday the 1st of October. So that'll be quite a good game. And the Falcons, like we've both said, we already like the Falcons. So there's they're a good franchise to follow, being in a Super Bowl in the last 5-6 years, like 2017, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And they were in the playoffs for a consecutive number of years as well.
Yeah.
They did really well for a long time.
And they've I mentioned the name already, and we'll talk about him a wee bit later. Rookie running back Bijan Robinson's getting more than hype. So he's one of those players you can fall in love with and fall in love with the team because of him.
The Falcons as well they play in the Dome as well. So Dome teams specifically do well at home because there's no wind. Mm-hmm. So when they're throwing the ball, it kind of there's nothing to disrupt it. There's no conditions. So it's like they always do really well at home. Their home games are normally, apart from the Cardinals, their home games are normally give them a distinct advantage.
Another the following Sunday, 8th of October, it's the Jaguars again. So I'm guessing they just do a sort of longer stay in London.
I think because they're owned by the guy that owns Fulham Football Club. Yeah. So I think that they go and train at Fulham and then stay in the UK.
So their second game in London this year, they play the Buffalo Bills. So if you manage to get to that one, I think tickets are even more expensive than the first game, and that probably takes into account that you're seeing the Bills, who we've already said second most explosive offense, Josh Allen at quarterback.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs.
The Bills are the only NFL franchise to actually play in New York.
Really?
Yeah, because the Jets and the Giants play at MetLife, which is actually across the river in New Jersey.
I did not know this.
Buffalo is in the state of New York, so they are the only official team that play in New York, although they're not called New York.
I honestly never realised that. That's bad from my part, but definitely ignorance. But
I think they used to play a game in Toronto as well, and they were like Canada's team for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do, but yeah.
And then the following week, two new teams, Baltimore Ravens and Baltimore Ravens.
Hate the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm not big on the Ravens either. And the Tennessee Titans play each other Sunday, October 15th. The Titans could be quite exciting this year. They've got second-year quarterback Malik Willis. I don't know if he'll eventually see starting time over Ryan Tannehill, who's still there.
You would assume, because Tannehill's just a bomb scare, isn't he? You just never know what he's going to do next. Like, it's just a matter of time before he's dropped, isn't it? And he ends up in like the Saints or like probably in Cleveland.
Yeah. What I like about the Titans this year as well, they've gone out in free agency and picked up DeAndre Hopkins, who has been a top receiver for a while now. And his career's maybe fallen off a bit when he was at Arizona, funnily enough. But he is apparently looking like he could be back to his best. And they've also got running back Derrick Henry, who, go look him up if you don't know who Derrick Henry is. He is probably about 6'8", like built as anything, and he just runs through people and runs so hard and so fast. He's I think scored 2 99-yard touchdowns in the last few years.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal. But the Titans are kind of that franchise where there's no pressure on them ever. No one ever thinks they're going to do well. They kind of just always come out of nowhere. No one ever says they're going to be awful. No one ever says they're going to be great. They're just like the Titans are like. Yeah. Also, they got the best uniforms this season in the league. I know there's the Houston Oilers, which there's a bit of controversy going on with that, but their uniforms are class. And if I've got a bit of spare pocket money, I might buy myself one because they are on. Just go Google them. They're the best. Yeah.
No, I agree. They do look good this year, and I think with the Titans as well. I'm trying to think. Their division is the Colts, the Texans, and someone else.
Their division is, because I've got it up here. Their division is, so they got the Jags.
The Jags,
who will be pretty good.
Yeah.
The Colts will be garbage, and the Texans, who I just don't even know what the point of their existence is anymore. They should have just got rid of the Texans after what left, really. I don't know what the Texans have done for the last decade.
It's felt like in the past at least sort of 5 years until last year, and especially after Andrew Luck retired and whatnot, that division, it's just like, as long as the Titans play their games, they'll probably make the playoffs because they'll get out their division because it's been such a weak division. Like you said, Jacksonville are now coming into the fold. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. This is year 3 for him. And they they got a big playoff win last year. Was it then that they came from behind against the Bills, I think it was, and it was like ridiculous comeback, like game of two halves.
Yeah, I think that does ring a bell. Yeah, but it is quite. But then the NFC South is also quite weak. The Saints and the Bucks aren't going to be anything spectacular. I don't know what we're going to get from the Panthers, and I think the Falcons. Like, it's going to be in that division. It's going to be who's just the least worse.
Yeah. Again, the NFL's constantly fluctuating. Sometimes those divisions can look like the hardest divisions in the league because each team's so good. And like you already mentioned, the Patriots went on a tear and just won the division for 13 plus years or something, or like 12 of 13 years.
I think they made it to the playoffs like something ridiculous, but they won their division like without even thinking about it every year. And it was like the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins were basically just playing for a wild card. But now that division's on top of its head. And you had the same. You had the same in ours with the North as well. You had the Steelers were winning it every year.
Yeah.
And with us and the Bengals were kind of fighting out for the bottom. And now the Bengals are light years ahead of the rest of us.
Same with the NFC North, where the Packers are. It's used to be the Packers until probably last year, and for the last 10 years, the Packers were almost nailed on to win that division, and it would be one of the other three teams clinch a wild card spot, like you said. Which, if you don't know about the playoffs, so there's 8 divisions in the NFL. Am I right in saying 4 in the NFC and 4 in the AFC, which is the two conferences that the league split up into. I don't know what they actually stand for: National Football Conference and American Football Conference.
Yeah, so the NFL, the National Football League and the American Football League merged, and that's kind of how their names of the conferences. So the teams that were in the AFC were teams that used to play in the American Football Conference.
I
think the Seahawks are the only team that's transferred from the AFC into the NFC.
Right.
Or they may have transferred back a couple of times, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. The way it works is eight divisions from the two conferences, four in each. The winner of each division gets a playoff spot, and the two
next best teams based on winning record, and they take some other like percentages above 500 and stuff, then get a wild card. So then the top 2 ranked teams get a bye, and then the bottom 2 play the wild cards.
Mm-hmm.
But the Giants a couple years ago played the wild card against the Falcons, I think it was, and then went all the way through and won the Super Bowl. So it can sometimes, if you have a team in the wild card, you kind of keep going. The Giants had to beat the Dallas Cowboys, I think, on the last day of the season to get a playoff place.
Yeah,
and then they carried it, and then they went all the way through and won the Super Bowl. So it works.
Yeah, so it goes wild card round, divisional playoff round, conference playoff round, so which is also the conference final, and you get like a trophy and a big cheer for even winning that and getting to the Super Bowl. You've won the conference, and that is you're the best team in the NFC or the AFC.
Yeah, you get something, and then you get it like it's listed as you've won that because it used to be an old league, and then you go to the Super Bowl. So
exactly, which is obviously the best, or the team who's made it through the playoffs from the NFC, the team who's made it through the playoffs from the AFC play each other, and the Super Bowl, which I'm sure folk who haven't been into NFL have probably watched bits of a Super Bowl, especially now it's shown and advertised so much in the UK. I think it's good.
It's on free-to-air TV as well, isn't it? The Super Bowl,
yeah.
Right? The NFL and American football isn't just the Super Bowl. It's a bit like a dog just isn't for Christmas. The NFL is a lifestyle choice.
And actually, one of my favourite parts of the season as a whole is what we're in just now, which is the training camp. So the best way to put it and compare it to British football again, I guess, would be, or British sports in general, you've got like pre-season, then you've got your pre-season games, then you're into the league. Training camp is like the pre-season training, which will lead to, I think the start of September is pre-season games, and each team will play 3 or maybe it's sooner than that, actually.
It's in a couple weeks because we've got I think it's next week. I was looking at something online, and I think it'd be the beginning of next week. So They're all staggered. We play the Jets on the 4th.
Yeah, which is like is it not for like it's the Hall of Fame game, that's what it is.
Are we in the Hall of Fame game? Oh yeah, we're in the Hall of that's the Hall of Fame game, sorry. Yeah.
Which is another classic American thing, a Hall of Fame.
It's like the Pro Bowl, isn't it? I don't know what the point of this. So yeah, it must be in a couple of weeks. Yeah, because it's not come up on my.
Yeah, thing. That's the best way I describe it. What we're in at the moment is training camp, which is like pre-season training, but it's your chance to see. Like we said, there's so many transactions and player movement, and the draft picks coming in that so much changes in an off season, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's when there's no training, no games, but things are being done like the NFL draft. That training camp's exciting because you're seeing new players on new teams, new connections, and new rookies coming into the league. So I've gone through and sort of picked out some of the training camp stories from this week, as it just started during last week. Some bigger than others. I thought we could talk about. So rookie quarterbacks is always a topic of discussion, and it looks like Bryce Young, who I believe was he first pick? Bryce Young? Let me double check that.
I'm gonna say yes, but that could be wrong.
I want to get my facts right. Bryce Young.
The other thing with training camp is you'll hear players have reported back for training camp, and sometimes you'll have players who will say will have a disagreement with their franchise or is in free agency will look to maximize the deal they can get. So you hear sometimes such and such hasn't reported for training camp.
Yeah.
And that is a really big taboo in American sports, in any American sport, really.
Yeah. So yeah, Bryce Young, number 1 pick at the Carolina Panthers. They had a higher pick, I believe 9th, but they traded I think DJ Moore, wide receiver. I'm saying I think I'm reading this now. DJ Moore, wide receiver, and other draft picks to Chicago Bears. So they traded up knowing they needed a quarterback, and they went and got Bryce Young, who played at Alabama during his college career.
He did, yes. Yeah.
So he's looking like.
He's looking like.
He's looking like a day one starter, which you'll see a lot of even high draft picks picked into the league, but then not start straight away because they want to take time. Patrick Mahomes, who's the best player in the league now, was sat out most of the first year, if not all of it. It's kind of like what we spoke about last week with the redshirt freshman. It sometimes happens in League Two, but Bryce Young for the Panthers, and it probably why they traded up for him. They needed a quarterback. It looks like he's going to be a day one starter, which is pretty big news. And likewise, Anthony Richardson, number 4 pick with the Indianapolis Colts, is looking like a day one starter as well. So that's a couple of bits of news to come out early doors in training camp this year.
Yeah, the Colts, I think those two franchises are not going to be. There's not going to be a lot of pressure on them, and it's kind of their quarterbacks are going to be given time, which they need. It's, as I said last week, the step up is massive, specifically for a quarterback, because the NFL is such a pass first league, whereas in college it's not.
Yeah.
So I think and they're not going to chuck the entire playbook at them. Patrick Mahomes is obviously a bit of a unique example where he kind of can just do anything, but I'd be interested to see what those two kind of deliver in the NFL, because by the law of averages, one of them's going to fail. So it'd be interesting to see which one does and what they kind of do when they fail. But I think that the Colts are a bit of a basket case, I think, at the minute. And I think that they're going to be the next Cardinals. That's my long-term thing. They kind of just seem to be staggering along a little bit.
The Colts, I think, they'll have just a couple more weapons than the Panthers do. So is that going to help Richardson more than Bryce Young?
It might do. It's difficult. You don't know. It's until they start. Even in preseason, you're not really going to know. So until they come out and start chucking the ball about.
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe some of it also might be that those Colts uniforms are hideous, and there doesn't seem to be any positive news coming out of the Colts.
No.
In a minute concerning their running back. So we'll move on to in a minute, because I've got a lot to say about running backs.
Yeah, no. You know what? We can move on. Check that point off the list. So, someone that came out, Jonathan Taylor, who's he had a sort of career year last year, running back for the Colts. And I don't know how true this story is, but apparently, Colts owner Jim Irsay pulled up to training camp and sort of said, like, Jonathan Taylor, come here. Sat down, had like an hour-long conversation, and afterwards,
it was in his luxury RV as well. It was like in like his like portable mansion, I think. Yeah,
exactly. And so imagine this big bus pulling up to training camp. I keep hitting my microphone today, and yeah, he's like, right, you over here now. Comes out, Jonathan Taylor hands in a trade request after the meeting, and then Jim Irsay, the owner, came out and said something along the lines of, the league goes on, if I die and he retires, no one's going to miss us. New players come in, and then went on to say, we're not trading Jonathan. So Jonathan Taylor looks like he is staying with the Colts, but it was a very weird sort of thing to come out the Colts. And like you said, it's bad backroom admin sort of thing, which leads to on-field success if you have successful backroom stuff. And it's just...
So is their owner their GM as well? Because for the owner to...
I might be getting it wrong. It might have been GM then. Yeah, sorry.
I think, but their owner was there as well, because their owner is... Go and Google some of his quotes, because I was listening to him on Part of My Take this morning, and he has had an enjoyable time in the 60s, I think is the way I'm going to describe him. It's just an apps. You don't want that in training camp. It's just a mess. If you want to trade him, what did he think was going to happen? They were going to be like, yeah, we'll trade you now. We'll just trade you off for future draft picks.
No.
That's
what the off season's for.
Yeah, and then he's come out and said that his back, someone's reported he's got problems with his back, and then the Colts have said, that's fine, we'll put you on the non-football injury list, which means they haven't got to pay him. And he's in the last year of his rookie deal, and then all of a sudden he's gone, oh no, my back's fine, I don't want to be traded anymore. So what did you think, that he was just going to sit on the bench all season and the Colts were going to pay him, and then he was just going to rock up to like the Bills or when it baffles me, honestly. Like, running backs are getting on my nerves as well, and this is the straw that broke the camel back.
So if you don't know what's been going on with NFL running backs in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, mayhem. And it's a long time building up to it, but pretty much. And I think the leader of the pack here is someone who's got a deal, which is Austin Eckler from the Los Angeles Chargers. He sort of said, we're undervalued, we don't get paid for what we do. And the NFL's pretty much saying, you get paid what you get paid, take it or leave it, sort of thing. And as far as I'm aware, there was a pay deal sort of made, I think only sort of like in the last 10, 15 years, to increase the running backs' pay. And the running backs are getting more involved in a game, but they're still getting so much money. It's baffling as a normal person to see them complaining over what they're getting paid.
But they want... Chubb did come out and make a very good point. He said it's the only position in the NFL where your productivity and the more you get the ball then hinders the amount of money you can be paid, because obviously you're picking the ball up and you're just running into people. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, look at fullbacks. Fullbacks aren't in the league anymore. So you should... I don't mean to be rude, but you're still in the league. You're still productive. Your position is still wanted, but you're
still being paid a lot of money.
You're still being paid a lot of money, but you're not getting the draft. You're not being drafted highly. I've not looked at the draft, but I very much doubt any running backs were in the top 10.
I don't think so, no.
There we go, then. That's my point. So what do they think they're going to be paid the same as a wide receiver or a tight end? Like, if you want to be paid the same, learn to catch the ball, learn to throw the ball, or learn to block and move to one of those positions. I know it's very easy for me to say as a 6 foot, 13 stone lad from Devon, but that's it's just a mess. Like,
no, it is, and I get your frustration, and it's sort of turned into not just a couple of people saying it who have people now holding off on getting a new deal and potentially playing this season. I mean, Saquon Barkley, who plays for the New York Giants, he has re-signed now.
Yeah, but he was the one that was saying, "I'm not going to play. I want the franchise tag," and he was one of the ringleaders of this apparent Zoom call, and then re-signed a deal for less than you would buy a house for in New York, like a lot less. Like there's guys in college who are being paid roughly the same amount of money. Like
it makes no sense.
The thing they need to do, and a lot of people have said this, the NFL said we've come up with this great thing called, in the NFL they have this thing called a franchise tag.
Yeah.
Which means a team, for any new fans, a team can give a certain player a franchise tag. They then get paid more money. They're then part of that team for a certain number of years. The NFL said to all the other sports in America, we've come up with all this great idea called a franchise tag. We're going to implement it. It's going to revolutionize sport. And all the other Major League American sports went, no. And the NFL have, not getting rid of it. The NFL have just doubled down on it. They just need to get rid of the franchise tag, and you haven't got any of this issue.
Yeah, exactly.
The running backs can then play. All players can play. When their deals run out, they hit free agency. It's more interesting for us as fans. The running backs haven't got this. They can then command bigger fees. That's what they need to do.
Speaking of free agent running backs, or just running backs in general,
just the most hated people in the league at the minute.
Honestly, in the past few days, there's been some interesting news surrounding another two sort of top 10 running backs in the league. Dalvin Cook, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings, he is looking like he could be joining Aaron Rodgers at the Jets, or he's also hinted at going to the Dolphins. And I think he joined the Good Morning Football show and sort of spoke about it all, but I've not properly watched that yet. But it's now looking more likely that he goes to the Jets, which is a good move for the Jets. And I think he's also maybe in a bit of trouble outside of football about a bar fight or something. I might be wrong. I might be getting my players mixed up. But in fact, I'm getting my player. That's Alvin Kamara of the Saints, another running back.
Oh, there we go. See, they're all up to it. I think him joining the Jets makes sense if the Jets offense, obviously, as we've said, is ranked quite far down, then that should maybe push them up a little bit higher. But it's another one, isn't it? It's how much is he going to help the Jets? Because Aaron Rodgers is going to want to chuck the ball about left, right, and center. So
I'll tell you what,
it's a good move for him, and he's obviously going to be paid a lot more than he's probably going to sell for a lot more than the $900K that Barkley settled for at the Giants. But
running backs have the shortest shelf life in the NFL, I think.
Yeah.
You look back to 5 years ago, and two of the top running backs in the league were Devontae Freeman and Todd Gurley, who were, not old. They weren't getting old either, and they're now completely out of the league. And it's like what you mentioned. They run themselves into brick walls for 4 quarters each Sunday for half the year. But the shelf life and the value of them just dropped. Saquon Barkley was the next best thing a few years ago. Now he's, like you said, taking a tiny deal. It's crazy.
But that's the thing they need. Teams either need to make, if you find a running back who's got other tools in his armory, then that by all means pay him. But if he's not able to block or catch the ball and all he's doing is just taking handoffs, and obviously establishing the run game is important, but it's not as important as paying a wide receiver or a lineman or a safety or someone on the defensive end. Yeah. They are essentially, with all due respect, they're just one step up from a punter and a kicker. And that's not being harsh. You're not going to miss a running back. And it's all done by committee anyway, running backs, isn't it?
Yeah.
The team's got 3 or 4 of running backs on their roster, so it's not
someone for on the goal line, someone for third down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's unless they're like a Devin Hester where he's catching the ball and running for punt returns, then it's not. It is what they're a dying breed, unfortunately, and it's going to be a few years' time where running backs are coming into the league playing one season and then going again.
It saddens me as well because some of the most exciting players to watch are running backs. Like the likes of when I started watching Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, a bit of a niche one, but Eddie Lacy for the Packers. I don't know if you remember. A Marshawn Lynch sort of build, and just like honestly, and those are some of the players you fall in love with because they are, I guess, the ones scoring the touchdowns and making the big plays and putting on the jukes or hurdling people. But
yeah,
it does sadden me that they fall out. And someone else who I did like for a long time, Ezekiel Elliott, Zeke of the Dallas Cowboys, he's actually met and I believe is still in New England meeting the Patriots. I seen a photo of him and is it Mac Jones, the Patriots quarterback at the moment?
yeah.
Sitting down having sort of a dinner meeting with, I believe, Patriots sort of representatives. So that looks like that could be very close to happening, and it might have even happened while we're recording. But yeah, that's another big move.
I don't think it has because I'm on the ESPN website. But then
Yeah.
Bill Belichick is been in the league a long time, and he's the one. He does do running backs by committee, doesn't he? As I've said,
Yeah.
so it's probably a good move for him. Whereas if he went somewhere else, he's not going to get that longevity, is he? But
Yeah, it could be the revival of Zeke's career. Once one of the most exciting players in the league. And while we're last thing on running backs and Patriots running backs, actually, I've seen Sony Michel, Patriots Super Bowl winning running back, has retired at the start of training camp. I think. Don't know if you.
no. That should be what we're talking about. Running backs, he's won a Super Bowl. He's got his money. He's probably not been able to get a gig, and it's just gone out and done now.
But he was part of that Belichick system, like you said, committee running back, where he would never be making the big plays, but he could run, he could catch a ball, and he could score touchdowns in the red zone. And like if it works in the system, it works in the system. And if you're behind one of the best quarterbacks of all time, then there you go. So another wee bit of running back news with Sonny Michel retiring, which I'm sure a lot of people will glance over completely.
If you're new to the league, that doesn't really matter because he's retired now. A player actually that had retired and come back, Jimmy Graham. I was really happy to see him back. And he's back to the Saints as well. He's got to be one of the very few players to leave the league, take a year out, and then come back. Like I thought he'd come back for like a day so he could retire a Saint. And when I read it, I was like, oh no, they've actually signed him for a year. Like I thought he'd retired. Like I thought he was done, like sitting on a beach in Miami or Hawaii or whatever. I was like, oh, fair play.
Yeah, obviously known for his time at the Saints, he became a Seahawk and a Packer, I want to say.
Yes, and he was on another roster as well, but I don't think he played. Did he win the Super Bowl with the Saints?
I'll tell you just now.
I've always he's one of the players when you think of like Tom Brady, you think of Brady at the Patriots, you don't really think about the time at the Bucks. Graham at the Saints is, if you say his name, he's instantly a Saints. Like, like Peterson, obviously at the Vikings. He's kind of, if you held a gun to me and asked me to name my favorite Saint, he would be the one.
Yeah. Do you remember when they won the Super Bowl?
2009. So no, he probably wouldn't have been.
2010. So yeah. But first team All Pro 2013, second team All Pro 2011, 5 Pro Bowls, a receiving touchdown leader in 2013. Pretty historic career, especially at his time at the Saints.
Yeah, and the Saints aren't going to be great. So for him, it's kind of that experienced head in the locker room, isn't it? And comes back, does he can finish his career a Saint? Then I think that was my feel good story of in the NFL for
definitely. I like the video that got reposted everywhere was when he scored a touchdown and done a slam dunk celebration on the post. That
I love that as well. Yeah.
No, he again when I started watching, he was, in the what turned out to be the prime of his career, and just one of those players that you fall in love with. And yeah, definitely. And then he came to Green Bay for a couple of years, didn't do anything, but he's one of those players that and like you said, feel good story. Going back to the team that drafted you, that started all where you played your best football, it's a good story.
And he's going to be cheap as well. Like he's not really going to impact their cap space, which the Saints are going to be rebuilding. So to have him for literally a pittance is going to be good. Speaking of rebuilding and continuous rebuilding and never stopping rebuilding, I just want to talk about Washington. The ever-going saga that I am never bored of talking about. For anybody who's new to the NFL, the Washington were called the Redskins for years, and then obviously there was a lot of changing of names and iconography and stuff in America. It did hit British sport with the Exeter Chiefs changing their names. Not going to go into the rights and wrongs or anything to do with that. That's not what we're here for. But they changed their name to the Washington. Was it the football club or the football team?
Football team, yeah.
The football team for a few years. Daniel Snyder has sold he was part of the franchise, bit dodgy. He sold the franchise for $6 billion, I think. Yeah, $6 billion. The NFL did fine him for some discrepancies. They fined him $30 million, so he's still walking away with a few billion in his back pocket. So, well done, NFL. But yeah, they're going to change their name yet again because they're going to erase him, basically. So he changed the name to the Commanders because he wanted to have bigger ties with the American military and maybe some arms deals. One said, I don't know if they were joking or not. But they're on about changing the name again and erasing him. Magic Johnson is part of the consortium that owns them, and he played for the Michigan Spartans. So there's rumors they may change the name to the Spartans, which would be awful because there's far too many Spartans.
Yeah.
There's a joke in that somewhere, isn't there? But yeah. So the names are, and they're all, all new team names are awful in every sport.
True.
True. There is not a decent new team name anywhere. Was it in rugby league? Is it the Lee Leopards now?
Yes.
Awful. But what's a leopard got to do with Lee? It's Greater Manchester. I've never seen a leopard in Greater Manchester.
It's worked for them though. They're second, but yeah, no, I agree.
The ones in the BBL are just as bad. Like I'm not just dissing on like rugby league or anything.
No.
So they're on about changing it to the Washington Majors.
No.
The Washington Red Tails, which apparently is something to do, which actually is African American pilots who fought in World War II. So that's kind of okay. But that's dangerously close to what they've changed before. We're not going to go to that. The Washington Red Hogs, they were called the Hogs for years, apparently. I quite like the name the Hogs. That would be good. That would be
it's not the worst one.
Pigskins, awful. Don't do it.
No.
And the Washington, D.C. Football Club, which would call them DCFC, which would be Derby County Football Club. But they can only change the name to D.C. if they move into the district of D.C.
It's awful, isn't it? You
can't
call.
They should have just kept Washington Football Team.
Yeah, you can't call an American football team football club. Sorry, you can't go near that.
Like football team was the least worst name, and also it sounds a bit historical.
Yeah.
The fact that they've never won anything in years, but it's just they've got
a good team now, which is the most annoying part of it for me because get the backroom, like I said, get the background stuff sorted out. They've actually their defense is unbelievable, and they've got an up and coming offense too. So it's
but they'll go, but they're just a neglected franchise, and all of the Washington teams, for the most part, have been awful for decades. Apart from the Nationals won a World Series, awful again. And the Wizards are awful. Let's not go there. And then the NHL team did win a Stanley Cup, I think, maybe about 10 years ago. But they're awful. Why? What? I don't. It's baffling me. Why do you need to just keep changing the name every 5 minutes? The names are supposed to stick. I get why they changed the name. They should have just stayed with Washington Football Team and hadn't had that. So there's a lot of me. There's a lot of me just getting stuff off my chest tonight, isn't there? On the NFL.
No, honestly,
I do genuinely like the sport. It's, I'm not miserable.
What we'll do is we'll set up a wee Twitter poll, with a few of those names in there and see what people like the most. Yeah,
and if you're a Cowboys, Eagles, or Giants fan, your opinions are valued, but they are skewed ever so slightly.
Yes, exactly. No, that's not the best story of the week. And another one that, just to touch on it quickly, that I didn't like, but it's a story for sure. And we spoke about Dalvin Cook potentially getting paid to go to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers took a $25 million pay cut, which he never wanted to take a pay cut at Green Bay, especially after we drafted Jordan Love, who is replacement as he's seen it. So that felt like a bit of a punch in the gut to the Packers, especially. I think we're still paying part of his contract.
Yeah, he's basically being paid a signing on fee, and then he's being paid $1 million this season. But that's a big two fingers up to Green Bay, isn't it? Like,
it's huge. Fair enough, Tom. You know what? Go win again. I like him as a player, but no, I seen that. I was like, that is exactly what it is. A big, look at me now. So
it's very. If you're a Green Bay fan, it is annoying. But for everyone else, that is incredibly funny because that's what Green Bay should have, they should have just resolved it, and he could have been there and he could have won another Super Bowl eventually.
It was over as soon as we drafted Jordan Love.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Like that and Tom Brady not actually dating Kim Kardashian have been the two very humorous stories I've enjoyed in the NFL for the last few weeks.
And then from humor to disappointing for some teams, a couple of big injuries this week.
Yeah,
Jalen Ramsey, cornerback, formerly of the Rams, now at the Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey has torn his meniscus in his knee, I believe. So
that's not good, is it? Really, for a league that is so physical, that's not.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good in any sport, but it's not good especially in the NFL, as it say. Yeah.
They're saying late November for a return for him, which doesn't seem too far away, but you're missing a good 7-8 games at least. No, more. Probably 10, 11.
Yeah, and he's not gonna get massive amount of snaps, as he's gonna come back in and play bit part, but it's still
one of the best corners we've seen in the recent game, definitely.
Yeah, and you need to have that mobility, don't you, to play corner as well. So you hope he comes back, but also at the same point, it's not great, is it? And it's going to be difficult for the Dolphins as well, isn't it? Because the Bills are going to be all commanding in that division.
Yeah, exactly. And then one you might be quietly happy about.
Right, I don't want to see anyone injured, like at all. But he's a Bengal, so I'm completely fine. I'm not fine with it, but I want him to be better. He can only be well after we've beaten them twice.
Yeah, so I don't know if you'll get the chance to beat them twice. He won't be out for too long. I think it's a calf injury. We're talking about Joe Burrow, the Bengals quarterback. He's in his third year now, and he's just a baller, like proper. Just he could be, one of the great quarterbacks of all time by the end of his career. And the rivalry that the Bengals have now with the Chiefs, winning AFC championship against each other in the past 2 years, each have won one. The Chiefs obviously went on to win the Super Bowl last year. The Bengals couldn't quite get it done against LA the year before, but he has just taken that team, him and Jamar Chase, both formerly of LSU. That is just, I think the whole NFL was sad to see. And one of my favorite clips of all time, have you ever seen, it's like a sort of middle-aged woman, and it's one of those like street interviews, and she's like, "Let's go, Joe Burrow," and it just got edited to absolute. Oh, honestly, one of the best American football clips. Just her.
The Bengals are the team I dislike the least in our division. They're not. I want them to do well, but at the same point, it's difficult. But
yeah,
I hope he is back because he's a great watch.
Yeah.
You don't want to see anybody injured, but if anyone, also going back to people trying to find teams, if anyone's looking to pick a city to invest in as a sporting city in America, Cincinnati is possibly a very exciting city right now. The Reds are doing really well in baseball. The Bearcats, which is the Cincinnati University, have just moved into the Big 12. Very good at basketball, very good at football, and the Bengals are probably going to win a Super Bowl in the next few years. Yeah. Also, if you don't like basketball, ice hockey is a great city because they haven't got teams in either of those.
Definitely. So hopefully Joe Burrow, I think I've seen 2 or 3. We'll miss the first 2 or 3 games of the season or something.
They were worried that it was going to be like season ending, and then after looking at it, it was just a thigh strain. I don't think it's going to be anything more than they're probably wrapping him in cotton wool, aren't they? Like they're not going to risk him in preseason games or anything. They're going to be like they're probably not even letting him like walk around the training facility, or like he's probably got someone feeding him at the minute, like when we're sat here.
I think one of the things you'll come to hear a lot more was a non-contact injury. So obviously American football is a big contact sport, and this just happened, off the away from the play. I think he was just sort of rolling out to his right and pulls up. So that
I don't even. I think it was like warm up drills. I don't even think he was actually throwing to anyone. I think that they were just snapping the ball and he was just rolling out, and he was just. It's probably a bit of rust as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So good news. Doesn't look too bad, and it's not an injury to the arm, which is the quarterback's moneymaker. So
it's not like Robert Griffin III when he was injured and his 2 linemen were picking him up for the snaps, carrying him to the next snap.
Yeah,
then throwing the ball, then they were picking him up and then carrying him to the next snap. Like that was
Matthew Stafford done something similar as well, did he not?
Yeah, and they did 1 years ago in the snow, didn't they? Where someone hurt themselves and they were picking them up and then carrying them in through the snow and everything. Like,
and then just to sort of finish us off this week, on the last few training camp stories, we don't even need to talk about them, but I'll just list them off. I found them quite interesting. One was Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of the rookie wide receivers taken in the first round by Seattle, is getting lots of touches apparently during training camp, which is good news. He's a real talent. DeAndre Hopkins, like we spoke about earlier, moved to the Titans. He's looking back to top 10 receiver form apparently, which is unbelievable news. And then in slightly weird news, Travis Kelce, one of the greatest, if not the greatest tight end of all time, Kansas City Chiefs. You'll see the video if you just search on Twitter. Catches a touchdown.
Yes, he did. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
catches a touchdown in training camp. The boy hits him slightly late, so tries to knock the ball out of his hand, left hook, which looked even more silly in these padded helmets that they're wearing at training camp this year.
They look comical, but that was unreal. I wish he'd done it in an actual game. That would have, because it would have been the player of the season already, wouldn't it? Like,
he has come out and said that he needs to be a better leader and teammate, though. So he's taken the brunt of the blame.
It's a very NFL thing, isn't it? The only other news I had, which we were speaking about, is that we've spoken about the Falcons quite a lot in this.
Yes.
I have found my new, outside of Kirk Cousins, my new idol in the NFL is Matt Collins, who is the second string wide receiver. And I think it's going to be a lot of entertainment, not for his football skills, just for things he's going to say. I'm going to follow him on all the socials right now. Asked about what he wants on his team, he said, "I don't like people that eat with utensils, to be honest with you. I like people that people who eat with utensils are soft. I want people to use their hands." Which is interesting if the Falcons serve soup in their training facility. But yeah, Matt Collins is now. I'm going to draft him. Just first draft, first pick, Matt Collins.
Matt Collins, and that brings us on nicely to what I wanted to wrap up this episode with. We want to start a fantasy league, whether it's on ESPN, CBS, NFL fantasy app, get as many people as we can involved, and potentially maybe even have a wee prize for a niche sport fantasy league. I was thinking we've got sort of niche sports teachers coming out in collaboration with our proud sponsor His Boxing Equipment, so potentially giving away something like that, or maybe I've not put this by yet, but maybe me and you could chip in and get the winner something NFL related, or college football related. So we'd be in the league, and we'd get everyone who listens and wants to be a part of the league involved and sort of play for prizes. So we'll start putting some feelers out there on our social medias, Instagram and Twitter especially. so if you want to get involved, either drop us a message or reply to one of our tweets, and we'll update with the details. And what that gets me excited about is then you can talk about that. You know, when we're into the season, we can talk about who's playing well in fantasy. Not that either of us are experts, but
if you spend more time picking your fantasy team name like I do, then less time researching your picks, you're going to fail.
It'll be interesting to see, you know, who joins, who takes it so seriously, and who comes out the winner. And I do enjoy seeing the internet, the videos on the internet of fantasy punishments for the losers. So you know, we could always talk about something like that. And you know, we might find a fantasy expert who could have their own section in No Huddle episodes going forward, stuff like that. So if you're interested, come on, get involved.
2 last things. If you draft Matt Collins, I'm going to just chuck anything at you, money, like my kidney, whatever, just to get Matt Collins on my roster. And the last thing I want to say is we are 26 days away from football starting. Not the NFL. The NFL starts a little bit later, but 26 days time. Saturday, the 26th of August, Notre Dame play Navy in Dublin on a 7:30 p.m. kickoff, which I assume may be on terrestrial television somewhere.
We'll find it if it is.
We're 26 days away now from football starting. And I'm just looking at the college games at the minute, and class. And then it follows into the NFL pretty much a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah, and we've got preseason that we can talk about very soon as well. So it's all kicking off. You know, we'll always get as much content out as possible, college and NFL stuff. And I think what we're going to try to do as well is individual videos, as well as this, you know, hour or so long podcast. We'll try to get, if something's happening, we can always sit down and talk about it almost as like a episode on the side. So yeah, we'll always be talking college football. We'll always be talking NFL. So I'm excited for from now we're in training camp, which is as exciting at the time. As we've seen, there's been so much to talk about today, and I'd imagine it'll just get, you know, next week, if when we speak about the NFL, it'll be hopefully less stories about running backs wanting money and more this person's getting a lot of touches in camp and is one to look out for.
Yeah, I think we've done the running backs now. I'm not going to talk about I'm not even going to draft a running back in my team.
You might struggle, but
can I just draft 2 defenses and just put the defense as the running back? Is that an option? I'm going to go have a little look. I'm going to Google it and see what I can do.
See how you can get around it, definitely.
And we've got balling coming up this week as well. So anyone has anything for balling, if you're a basketball fan and NFL fan, get in touch. That's any plug I've got.
Definitely, yeah. No, get content, YouTube video, Twitter, listen on Spotify, everything like that. We want to get as much interaction as possible, which is one of the reasons we're starting the fantasy league. But yeah, we just want people involved. We want to hear your college team because you listened to last week's episode. We want to hear your new NFL team, or we want to hear your rogue opinions, like me thinking the Packers are still in with a chance, or your slightly less rogue opinion. We want to hear it all. So just get in touch, and you know, if you know anyone or have any reason that you'd want to come on the podcast, let us know. We're definitely open to guests. So if you know anyone or want to get involved, get involved.
Even if it's from the smallest college team up to any NFL franchise, if you're involved, love the sport, follow us, tweet us, get involved. You know, we want to build a community in these sports, and it's, you know, we're on the show, but anyone can come join us, can have a chat with us. You know,
definitely. You know, we've been given a voice by niche sports, and
rightly or wrongly, I've been given a voice.
Trust me, some of my takes on the rugby league stuff as well is awful, but we've been given a voice by niche sports, and we want to extend that out to giving, like you said, no matter how you're involved in the game, there's always a story to tell about something. So get involved, and plenty more to come from us. But for now, unless you got anything else, Egg, that's episode 2 of No Huddle in the books.
Have a good one, guys.
Perfect. Cheers, guys.